Hey Ratbags, it's Jay. Just a quick guide today taking a look at the upgrades, abilities and perks that you should maybe concentrate on in Hyperlight Breaker. Of course, everyone's got different playstyles, so some of these perks might not really be your cup of tea, but I'm still going to list what I think are vital ones to get and what you should really be spending your golden rations and cores on. Find this video useful, leave a like, check out the rest of my guides, let's go. So if you don't even know how to unlock some of this, you will need gold rations, and you get them by completing cycles. You need the gold rations to go ahead and unlock these perks and also increase the amount of perks that you can have active at one time. The perks are all separated into different tiers, which you'll need cores to go ahead and unlock. So yeah, every perk does have a cost in terms of slots, so the medpack capacity here costs 2 slots, and that's something to bear in mind. It's not point unlocking or getting every single perk because you won't be able to equip them all unless you increase your slots. So sometimes you'll have to pick and choose between which of these perks you'll have active at any one time. But eventually, if you were to spend all of your rations unlocking more slots, you could max out all the perks. I've done a detailed video on how to get more gold rations and the cores that you're going to need to buy and unlock all of these perks. So go and watch that video. I don't want to waste people's time in this one today. This is purely about which of these upgrades are really good and maybe explaining all of them. But check out the comment section for the link to that video and in the top left. Once you've got your first gold ration, you should absolutely be unlocking the med pack. Now the way it's worded, it does make it seem like you've already got a med kit capacity, hence why so many people have been confused about why they can't heal. But it's not the case. You do need to spend at least one of your gold rations on this. But effectively, as long as you've got 3 in your inventory, you will have a medipack every run, and at the shrines you find out in the overgrowth, you can replay your medipacks by buying them for 5 or 8 medigems. So that should be the first one that you unlock. Next up, you've got Bald Energy, which extends your hover and glide timer. Honestly, avoid these. Like for sure, maybe if you want to just keep doing runs, running around the map and avoiding enemies quickly as you can to go and pick up as much loot. Personally though, I think it's more important to have perks that increase your damage output. This is what you might hit once you've completed everything else, but I really don't see the need to have an extremely fast hover or glider. Like it's cool enough, get you from A to B quicker, but there's definitely more important things to spend your resources on. It should be 2 or 3 of the cores to go ahead and unlock tier 2. And for sure, get refined blades. This will give you an additional affix for your default starter blades. Affixes are basically extra bonuses that get applied. They can be things like giving extra damage depending on what type of combo you have. So for example, right now my Soldier's Light gives me finishing edge, which will give me a blade combo extra 5% more damage on the final hit. But if I go ahead and buy one, you can see I don't have that same affix even though it's the same weapon. That's because of the ability we've just unlocked. Your default will always have an additional. It should change every time you have a new cycle, so that's something to bear in mind. You get used to something like it may have changed its ability, so double check before starting a new cycle or run. And that's what affixes are. You'll see them by the tiny little diamond with the hole inside. Some weapons will have them, other weapons won't. So for the cost, I think again 1 golden ration I do believe, maybe 2. It's definitely worth using this as it can potentially give you extra bonus damage or extra stuff going on with your weapons. Underneath it you've got vault slots, and effectively you can increase how much space you've got in your vault. Remember, you can stash any weapon, so any rail or gun that you come across. You cannot stash any of the hollows, but you should be able to stash some of the armor. So even if it's a gun or a blade that you don't like, make sure you go ahead and stash it to sell later on. Obviously, if you're picking up lots of good items and you've got a bunch of junk, go and sell the junk so you can keep your vault free. And if you get to the point where you really are picking up tons of weapons, tons of armor, and obviously rails, then yeah, you might want to increase your inventory space. But overall, I didn't really have any problems with this in the first 15 hours or so. It's only when you're going to start really getting hold of the best gear that you might have a bit more problems about which ones you want to save for later. Now, one you might want to consider is being able to reflect projectiles. If you haven't got 8 dogs napping at you at once, it's going to be someone firing from like 200 meters away that finally gets you. I haven't unlocked this yet, but I'm seriously considering it the amount of times I have been shot by something and I haven't realised because I was too busy trying to fight all the mobs around me. Problem is though, it still relies on parry. If you've tried parrying a melee attack, you'll realise how hard it can be sometimes. So trying to melee and parry a actual shot, especially when you're in the middle of something, I feel again that these maybe aren't worth it. Especially the high cost of the first one, 3 golden rations. It's up to you, but I still think this is worth maybe ignoring for now. This is really only going to suit really tanky characters with big powerful weapons that come really adept at obviously parrying, not maybe fast moving and nimble or lighter damage weapons, but do more of. Costs a fair amount of the gold rations as well to go ahead and max upgrade and get the most benefit from this too. So you could potentially use that to your advantage, taking on more powerful enemies for sure. That would be the only reason I would use specifically fighting one type of enemy on his own. Trying to use parry when you've got too many mobs around you is simply a recipe for you to die. Another chance to increase your slots if you want, otherwise moving on to tier 3, which I think was about 3 to 5 cores. Skeleton key, start cycle with 1 key. Keys, you've got a random chance of finding any of the general loot boxes. These are not listed on the map, they're just scattered all around. Now you can open doorways obviously to traders or to areas where you might find stashes which have the cores inside. I've had runs where I've had 2 keys but no doors that actually open. So it's a good perk, but you have to really remember you've got it, because if you die after your first start of your cycle, you will lose the key for the rest of your lives. So if you do buy this perk, make sure that at the start of every cycle you run and go immediately trying to find either stashes that are marked on the map, as I said they're often behind doors, or a trader. And just a reminder, keys can also be used to open up the unmarked laboratories that only appear as you get close to them. These are tough dungeons that you can actually get an extra golden ration from if you manage to get in there and take it from the golden chest. It'll be heavily guarded by a whole bunch of powerful mobs, so definitely not something you'll be doing on day 1, but if you're quick and nimble you could potentially get the golden ration and get out there. So yeah, if you've already got these, what I've been speaking about, I would absolutely go for that. Then we've got flash steps. Flash steps are, I think, really good. Closing that gap between you and an enemy, and then being able to do more damage with them hits, which kind of are a little bit weak compared to your other combo hits. I think that eventually will be something I'll put a lot of my points into, as it does basically equal an extra 15% damage eventually. But again, for now, I would actually skip, and this is where things start getting a bit more tricky. Some of the perks in tier 4 and 5 require abyss stones, which so far I think you only get through defeating some of the bosses. You can see here I need 5 gold rations plus 2 abyss stones to get an extra space to have 2 medipacks. It goes out saying, if you do manage to get the abyss stones, I would absolutely go for that. It is expensive, but having 2 medpacks on you was pretty much big in the game. Then you've got synergy, and this is where the mid to end game really comes into it. It basically gives you 10% damage for every piece of gear with the same status effect. Potentially that is 30% extra damage. It should cost 1, 2 and then 3 gold rations, and I think this is definitely worth it. Especially when you start getting more obviously better weapons and gear. And again, pay attention to anything that's got fixes on. So what we're looking here is anything that's got the same. So this soldier's light has got burn on it. So I'll be looking for any other kind of gear that might have burn, increasing the amount of damage you're going to be doing. So I've got flame here, and it's obviously going to do a lot of burning damage, especially good for countering lots of mobs at once. So at the point you can unlock it, that's the point you want to be storing up any weapons or gear that has element stuff on it. Status effects have got a whole variety. Rot basically makes enemies weaker and take more damage. Fire persists and gives more damage over time. Then you've got crystal, which will do a bit of damage about 10 seconds or 5 seconds after its first hit with it. I need to spend a bit more time in the elements before I do any more detailed guides on it, and obviously unlock more gear. So yeah, as soon as you start seeing a bunch of these element types across all of your gear, that would obviously be the time to go ahead and invest in something like this. Eventually though, this is how you're going to make powerful builds, whether it be rock based, fire based or more, and so utilising these will really seriously add more weight to it. Now I'm making it sound easy that you get all these cores, but remember it does take quite a bit of going through the maps. Some runs there's 3 stashes on the map, others 5. Remember you can get some of the core shards from defeating certain enemies or finding them out in the world that convert into 1 core as well. But eventually if you get 8 cores you can unlock tier 5, and obviously you do need to unlock all the previous tiers first, and then you've got ability to find better rarer loot. It increases it by 5% for each level, and you do only need rations for the first one at least. The better rarer gear, obviously, the better you're going to be able to last a cycle. There is a locked item, which I just don't think's here and may be added in the future update. And then we've just got even more slots. So for now at least, that's the perks currently explained and which ones I think are better than others. Remember, your gold rations can also be used in other ways, so just because you've unlocked the ones I've recommended, don't maybe go and assume that it's better to go and spend your gold rations on all the rest. Instead, think about getting affinity with some of the traders. This might actually be more important than some of the actual perks, especially ones where you get extra gear slots from either the rail or the blade trader. So you've got to balance that up with whatever playstyle you're going for, and obviously how many cores you've got as well. So for sure, it might be worth at least putting one of your gold rations into both the rail and the blade NPC, because then that way you can upgrade your weapons. So hopefully that has helped you out understand a bit more about some of the extra perks that you can get. A lot of them really are just a kind of fluff that you should only really spend if you've got an abundance, but some are really important and it's worth definitely persevering and trying to get hold of as soon as you can. I'm going to be going over weapons and different types, which ones are more suited for what playstyle, so look out for that video. And for more details about getting cores and the gold rations, do go and watch that video I mentioned at the start. And if you're still here, thanks a lot for watching. I really appreciate the support on this content, and I'll see you ratbags later.